for me, I was thinking I compare myself to you in the fact of how you operate your calendar and I guess your output of the tasks that you do, which is great. But because it's happening so much, I zone out from that.
Yeah. So my question to you is like, why were you comparing yourself to my way of working?
Hello, I'm Sam.
And I'm Amelia.
Welcome back to Us a Duo podcast where we aim to build a better mindset for better relationships.
Yeah, this week on relationships with our tasks, we are talking about accountability.
Accountability definitely is something that I struggle with.
Me too. But this week, this question came to our mind. How do we keep ourselves more accountable to our own tasks? Or why do we struggle more with keeping ourselves accountable?
That's actually a really good question. And a question that I ask myself every fucking day.
Me too. So the actual reason of why we thought of this, or even for me personally, I was cleaning out my 2023 calendar. Well, not even just 2023, like this year's calendar. I had a lot of recurring tasks that I put on the calendar, and I use this as like my to-do list to see what's coming up. And I do freelance design and just all these other side projects. So I want to be consistent, and I put these recurring tasks so that I can either work on it bit by bit over time. But turns out over the last year, and dare I say even 2 years, I didn't even do any of these recurring tasks that popped up. So for example, I had illustrations I wanted to illustrate, and I made that every single day at 10 p.m. at night. Didn't happen. So
Slacker.
I deleted it, and I'll tell you why later on. But yeah, I just got rid of it because I'm like, what's the point of wasting my calendar space if I'm not really going to work on it? So the question is, how do we keep ourselves more accountable in situations like this?
No, I can understand the calendar situation. You have those reminders there to help you keep yourself on track. But at times you just want to say, fuck that shit.
At times, or maybe most of the time.
Most of the time, I guess.
But I wanted to say, for me personally, I feel like I'm really good at just like event planning, time management, and things where I'm like managing people, because I'm thinking about me in a work sense. And I have had instances where I do work with a team or work with others, I delegate tasks, I catch up with clients because I do client management. And I do it pretty well, and I have had feedback where I do it good. So I think in senses where it's involving other people, where I need to get things back from them, I need to follow up, I need to see where tasks are at, like project management. I'm great at that, but when it comes to myself, maybe I just put myself in the back burner. I'm like, okay, I'm me. Like by the time I get to my stuff, it's not that important, or I'm just too tired by that point. So I'm just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, they say that when you're working in that professional aspect, you put a lot of energy into your work and things like that. So if you're predominantly like a project manager or your client managing type of work, when you get home, you just laze about and don't really focus on yourself. So you lose track on your own personal things, is what a lot of people do say when you're working in that type of environment.
Yeah. But let's start with, what are some tasks that you've had on your list, or even some things that you wanted to do, but you haven't managed to keep yourself accountable to do?
Yeah, for me, I generally just have two, but these two are probably more holistic in terms of there are multiple things that I do essentially apply to it. One of the biggest ones is being more engaged and disciplined on certain tasks that I set myself. So what I mean by that is I either set a reminder or a task to do, and it does appear, but then I'm not disciplined enough, or I'm not engaged enough to complete the task.
So you'll see it and you're like, oh, that can wait for like the next hour, and then it rolls over and keeps rolling. Yeah,
because maybe subconsciously I'm not setting it as an important discipline moment or a spur of that moment, or whenever I've allocated that particular time, I just CBF, or I just...
Is there a specific task? Like, is it like cleaning the house?
Yeah. So Yeah. So for an example, like let's just say if I need to do editing is like an hour or two. I just comes up and it just goes in and out of the ear or in and out of my eyes. Through the brain.
No, I get that feeling because it's the same with me. I wouldn't say just editing or like podcasting or anything, but like just designing. And then on the side, for me, I feel like as a creative, you always have to create. And to create, you have to show up on socials. You always have to like post things. And that's the part that I struggle. I need to put in my own time to make stuff and put it on socials. But because I do a full-time job, and then do this as well. Like none of this is coming out of complaint. It's just trying to understand how I can manage my own time better. And when I get to the point where I get this reminder, I'm like, okay, I need to design something. One, it starts off with, I have no idea. It's like, it's a blank canvas. It's all up to your own creativity to come up with something and put it on socials or even your portfolio. So there's nothing in my mind. I don't know what to do. Then that discourages me. Then I'm like, oh my God, there's so much effort. Put in the effort, start researching. I'm like, okay, I can't come up with anything. There's like still nothing in my mind. That was taking too long. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go edit videos instead, like our podcast videos, because I know what I'm doing. I have the task. It's set for me. All I have to do is edit, get that done. Like I think in the back of my mind, I'm a very big believer on not wasting time. Like I think you should know me by now, like, and you might be able to attest to how I am. Like, I rather use that time where I'm not doing anything to do something. So, in my mind, this is just me spitballing what I think is deterring me from doing these social designs is I have no ideas in my head. I have to research. Nothing's coming out. Nothing's being created, and it's taking me 2-3 hours, and I still got nothing. Whereas I can use that 2 to 3 hours to edit, and I've got something done.
Yeah, which is understandable because when you're creating something in a blank canvas, you need to use your creative juices to come up with some idea. Whereas on the flip side, if you're editing, you know what it is. It's right in front of you. There's nothing much more to it.
It's a clear task.
Yeah, it's a clear task and you have a clear vision of what you need to do. So it's more engaging when it comes to that.
Yeah, so kudos to those who actually always have creative ideas that comes out of their mind and have the ability to just spit it out into the world, because that is not me, and it's a shame because I am a creative, but I'm also not a creative in that way. So it's a hard space.
Wonder where they get their creative juices from. Eh?
Yeah. So yeah, that's one of mine, is just being able to keep on top of creating, and that's been hard. So, but then another one is I've always really wanted to expand into passive income or doing some sort of side business. And one of the ideas was just to sell illustrations. And I've spoken that earlier on about the calendar, trying to do that a little bit every single day. And yeah, that didn't happen. I think there's another reason why people end up not being accountable to themselves, and the reason is overexertion or overloaded and having a massive to-do list. And I think that essentially is what happened. Like, I'm not trying to put excuses or anything. Like, it can still be possible and can be done. So this year I'm trying a new method rather than trying to overwhelm the look of my calendar, seeing that every single day at 10 p.m. I've spaced it out to one a week, but I reevaluated my time and when I would have more of a downtime, and I schedule it in there. So it's more realistic rather than forcing myself to look at this every single day. And then sometimes when I get to doing it, I don't know if any other creatives out there can help me out here, but when you get to doing the task, or the task is like, hey, you need to do this now, sometimes you just don't feel it. So when I get to doing it and that task is showing up at 10 p.m. on that day, I'm like, I'm not feeling it.
Yeah. And you've just got to auto-regulate according to what motivates you, or when you're most engaged, or where your creative juices are ready to flow.
Well, I said it at last year, but previously I said it on the same time every single day. But this year I reevaluated and I'm looking at it at where I am most likely to have downtime. So that time I have more just space for myself to breathe, my mind to breathe, my creative juices to flow. So hopefully they'll work. We will let you know how that goes.
For me, my second one is just utilizing reminders. I kind of touched on this when I first started talking about what my things were, but essentially I task myself, but I end up putting it on the back burner. So it's not really committing to it.
So you're keeping yourself accountable by you're trying to keep yourself accountable for keeping accountable on your calendar, but you can't.
Yeah, pretty much. So I'll see it and then I go, oh, fuck, I'll just kind of shove it maybe an hour back, or I might put it back to the next day. So I treat this like gym, right? When I used to do powerlifting, it's all auto-regulating according to how your body feels on that particular day. Because some days you may not feel confident, you may not feel great, so your body feels like shit, or you're not feeling well. So you auto-regulate yourself according to the weight or whatever particular exercise you're doing. So I treat it very similar to that. So if that day I need to do this particular exercise or whatever it is, and I don't feel 100%, then I might just deload it, or I might just pull it back a bit.
Yeah, I get that point. And that's kind of similar to what I said with mine. On the day I don't feel like doing it, so I don't end up doing it. But there is that flip side where sometimes you just have to force yourself to do it. And that is where discipline comes in.
Yeah.
Like you have to evaluate where are you truly tired and you really don't have the energy to do it, or are you just really not feeling it? But you could be just forcing yourself to do it, because there is this method where they said, I think it's another how to get yourself to do some tasks, even cleaning. They said, just set yourself 2 minutes, get started, do it for 2 minutes. If you feel like stopping by that 2 minutes, at least you've worked on it for 2 minutes. But usually by the time you reach the 2 minute mark, you're already in it. Your body is just like, I'm already doing it. I might as well finish the task.
Yeah, that's a good point. Sometimes it's just a matter of starting it. Starting it sometimes can be difficult for some people, but it could be the other side or the flip side for others, where it's continuing the task that's difficult.
Yeah.
It's like your attention span is weak.
Yeah, I get what you mean in that sense, because that's essentially my calendar. If you see the way that I manage my calendar, it's pretty crap. I would push something back every single day instead of deleting it or moving it for like a week later or whatever. I'll move it back every single day, on a daily basis. I would spend that time to go on my phone, but reschedule for tomorrow for this time. And I could do that for 2 weeks or even a month. I think the most I've ever done it, which is kind of stupid if you think about it. You might as well just not do it.
Yeah, may as well just delete it.
Yeah.
But what do you think is holding us back from doing these tasks?
Yeah, I think it's got so many dimensions to it. It really depends on the task, depends on your situation, depends on your intentions of doing these things. So, for example, going back to the side hustle, the selling illustration things, that is actually a goal I really want to do and I really want to achieve. So that is something that I should be putting discipline in, as opposed to, there was one I was going to say is us wanting to vacuum the house at least every 2 weeks. We've kind of fallen off the bandwagon, but thinking behind the scenes, why is that happening? Why can't we keep ourselves accountable for that? And I think the reason for that is genuinely we are just really busy and we just can't get to it. And we're it's not detrimental. Our house isn't burning down. We're not living in a pigsty or anything.
Until there's insects and spiders fucking everywhere.
That's a different story. We live in Queensland, so we always get that. But it's just weighing between your tasks and why is it happening? So for example, the vacuuming situation, I think that can be pushed back another week. It's not going to be detrimental. But the illustration thing and starting a side business, a business usually takes 2 to 3 years, or even 4, sometimes 5 for it to grow. And the sooner you start and get it just working and just learning from all the stuff learning how to run a business essentially, or learning how to sell things and be e-commerce and all that takes time. And I've gotten to the point where I'm I should have just done it. I should have just taken it off the ground, just done whatever it is, learned from all the mistakes and done the pivots, rather than being at this time where I was now I really want to just have this going and I have nothing for me. So I for example, the thing that's holding me back for the illustrations is just discipline. Just being honest with myself is I had the lack of discipline to just do it. Whereas vacuuming, cleaning, that's just pure tiredness, overwhelming task load.
Yeah. And I would say I'm the same thing. It's just the discipline aspect, like I mentioned at the start. But I also find that being engaged is also an issue for me too, because
So what do you mean by engaged?
being engaged in terms of being motivated to complete it or to start it. There's two things: is having the discipline to complete it, but having the engagement or the motivation to actually start it.
Yeah,
or to
which
finish.
is why I mentioned intent, because intent for the illustration, my intent is to eventually have a side business, have some passive income. But the intent for the vacuuming, that's more like we just have to do it. It's not something that I want to do. Like I do want the house to be clean, but this is like you just got to do it. So my intent is like, oh, I can leave that for another week. It's fine. Whereas like the illustration thing is definitely something I want to kick off. So I want to be more disciplined in it.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Like that, there's a lot of things that you can obviously push back or put on the back burner. And I think sometimes we take that for granted because the bigger the cleanup, the harder it is at times.
Nah, I get it. Like if you leave it for like a year and like this whole stain of the wall or something is just there, it's going to get worse. But
yeah, you push it back too much, it's actually harder work for yourself.
Yeah, it's just coming back down to the intent, how much you actually want this task to be done, and priorities.
That's right.
Really. Yeah, the other thought I was thinking, I don't know if it's the same for everyone or any of yous out there, but my thought is, like I was saying at the start, I'm good at time management, delegating, checking up on people, following up, client management, those kind of things. But when it comes to myself, I'm not that great at it, or why do I drop the ball on it? So my thought is that because it's your own task, technically no one's watching you do it. No one's keeping tabs on what you've got up to, what you've done. Like maybe you catch up with a friend, but like, hey, how's this going? And you're like, yeah, it's going. Or like, oh, I haven't really done anything. That's probably the extent of it. Whereas because if someone was to manage you, see all your tasks, someone like essentially there's a project manager on top of you, they can keep you accountable. So because this is your own task, no one's looking at it. If you don't do it, that's on you. If you do it, that's also on you. So it's easy for you to just be like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow because you're not affecting anyone else but yourself.
Yeah.
But on the flip side of that, it is harder on you because, like, for example, back to the illustration thing, it's disappointed myself because it is something that I wanted to do, but it is again on me because I haven't started it. So it's harder on myself because now I really need to get it going.
You left it too late that you got to fucking pick your shit up, bruh.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. For me, I've thought about this last night, and as you mentioned before, your calendar, you like to time manage quite hectically.
Yeah.
Like if you guys saw her calendar, it's pretty full on. Like you see things.
I essentially have 3 or 4 calendars.
Yeah, like it's from a professional perspective, it's fucking good because it's very time managed. It's broken down into categories and slots, and that's really good. But when it comes to like your personal stuff, it's a bit like it's pretty full on and it's pretty hectic when you're trying to balance your own personal things and, you know, stuff that you got going on. So for me, I was thinking I compare myself to you in the fact of how you operate your calendar and I guess your output of the tasks that you do. I'm completely opposite in the fact of I'm probably someone that is at a slower pace. I like to chill. I like to take my time. And I find that when I do take my time, I'm more engaged, I'm more motivated. But now that I look back and I reflect and I say, okay, well, the last couple of years I've tried to really perform at your level to some degree. And I think that's sort of demotivated me to complete things.
Yeah. So my question to you is like, why were you comparing yourself to my way of working? Like no judgment at all. Just wanted to understand like how did it get to the point where you're like, okay, I want to be like her or I want to work at the same pace. Like what got you to be, let's try this?
I don't know, to be honest. I think it's a combination of multiple things. I think a combination of you indirectly, just the comments that you made that make me realize, oh, fuck, I need to pull my game up or I need to try and adjust myself to fit your type of lifestyle or your type of timetable. And the other side of that is me subconsciously seeing your calendar because my phone actually has our joint calendar in it. So I get reminders quite frequently on my phone saying, hey, I need to do this. You need to wash this or do this and pay the bills and do this and do that. And which is great. But because it's happening so much, I zone out from that. And I think outside of that, when we talk about our professional life, we already exert so much energy in our professional life. And I could really relate. Last year is very much like time management, having your manager look over your calendar, tell you and dictate what you can and you can't do, or hey, you should be taking this and that. So I think when I reflect back, I think subconsciously I was making that comparison to some degree. And last year was really, really evidence to me that.
Yeah, last year was pretty full on in terms of someone just always looking at your calendar and being like, hey, why isn't this here? Or like, hey, why is this here? So I can see why that has an effect.
But I mean, outside of that, it's more like, oh, you should be doing this or you should be going here and that. And I guess when you're in your professional life, you spend so much energy trying to uphold or be there and perform in those categories. But then when you come home, you have a similar sort of environment. So it gets to a point where you're like, oh, fuck this. I'm demotivated.
That bills and whatever stuff on that calendar is not the one on my calendar. Not our joint one, by the way.
Oh,
that's your own calendar.
No, it's actually ours.
I don't have a bills one.
No, it's our joint one.
I don't have it.
Anyway.
So yeah, maybe I have a fifth calendar that I don't know about. But yeah, like I just wanted to say that I don't feel like you need to have that feel to compare to me, because I do have an understanding that you do work at your own pace. And even just bringing back that episode with Jen, how she said that you're a person who does work at your own pace, like to do things like on your own accord and don't like to be forced into things. And I already do understand that, because we've been together for like almost 12 years now, and that was never my intention. So I feel like you don't need to put that pressure on yourself. And if I have put that pressure on you, I do apologize. But yeah, it's just...
You fucking apologize, woman. Hey?
So rude. Don't even accept my apology. But yeah, like my calendar, I do agree there's a lot on it, but I don't put every single thing on it. I don't be like 10 o'clock I need to clean, 12 o'clock I need to wash dishes. It's just like actual tasks, like design this time, edit this episode, need to be about this date, and it just together in a monthly view, or like whatever you want to view it as, it does look
it looks pretty
overwhelming to people who don't look at calendars a lot and to-do lists. But yeah,
intense, mate.
That
intense.
was a good deep chat. But that actually brings to the point of the other thing of why some people don't keep themselves accountable is truly just overexerting themselves, which I did point out earlier. So I think there is a little bit of that between both of us, like individually and even together. There is a lot on our list to do. And then adding on, sometimes there might be things that come in last minute. Like say, for example, recently our fridge broke and we got to organize time to get people in to like, work around that. Like there's these things that add to it. So it pushes back some of the tasks that we want to do.
Yeah, it's fucking annoying when you've had a brand new fridge that shits itself. Second time it shit itself in the last 3 years.
Actually, no. The first time was your mum's fridge, and then we bought this one.
We bought this one. First 3 months, you decide to poo yourself. And then maybe like a year and a half, maybe 2 years, it decided to shit itself again.
Yeah, so don't get a...
we can't name names,
all
but
right, we won't name it. But anyways, just do your research before you buy a fridge. So after we just uncovered all the things that we weren't able to keep ourselves accountable for, on a personal level, how would you want to do better in keeping yourself accountable to your task?
When I reflect back to what we just mentioned before and earlier, I still think the time tracking and the time blocking is still important to some degree, but I believe auto-regulating how you time block. So as an example, if you've got a time block to do something for an hour, but that day comes or that time comes and you're like, fuck me, I am not in my creative juices, then you might just pull it back to maybe 15 minutes. Like you said, apply the 2-minute rule. Just try and start it. If you ain't got the juices flowing within that 2 minutes and all goods, you put it on the back burner. Do something else.
Well, it's more like acknowledging that you've done at least 2 minutes of it. Like that's still something. But I do agree, time tracking, as much as I ignore it, I hate it, I just sometimes don't feel it. I do agree, time tracking, time blocking is still a great tool to do. but be realistic with it. Don't do what I do where I have like 3 recurring tasks every single day thinking that yes, I'm Superman, I'm going to achieve it all, because I am not Superman. I'm not Superwoman. And just maybe either alternate days. That's kind of what I've sort of gone into. Alternate days or alternate even weeks. So this week I'll work on this. The week after I'll work on this. And then managing expectations. So I came to you talking about this whole podcasting scheduling and how we can manage the expectations better. Managing expectations there so that I can actually have time to work on these things like illustration, designing, putting things like content creation onto socials. Having these kind of things and just managing better, being realistic. Don't shove it all on every single day, every day of the week, and thinking that you're going to achieve it.
Burning out, mate. Burning out.
I didn't say I'm burning out in that sense. It's just that when you force yourself to do that many things, you just, I don't know, I just get creative block. Whereas like if I have time to just sit there, think about this one task rather than being like, okay, I've got 1 hour for this. I've got to finish that by 1 hour. Next hour, I've got to do this. And then I'm going to finish that. And then if I don't finish it, it's not that I feel like a failure. It's just like, I haven't even started it. Like, what's the point? Like, it's like, I'm not going anywhere with this. So probably like might as well just not start it. And yeah, it's just like all these kind of things. So if you just make it more realistic, more achievable, you'll probably get a further than you would if you just back-to-backing your calendar.
Yeah, because you can't fucking run on the hamster wheel full time and then like never take yourself off and review what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like,
no, like what I'm trying to say is I can do back-to-back tasks. I don't mind, but back-to-back where I'm stacking 3 of the same tasks every single day and expecting me to work on it every single day, that's not realistic. But if I had like 1 full day where it's back-to-back or over 1 few days where they're all back-to-back and it's just got a variety of tasks, I'm okay with that. I think it's because I'm working on the same thing every single day, 3 back-to-back things. That's where I'm like, 1, it's like I need some variety. 2 is like I might not feel like it on the day.
Yeah.
You know? But one other thing that I saw, I was just researching how do other people keep themselves accountable. A lot of people said journaling, and this is something that I have tried in the past, but honestly, it doesn't work for me because I write things down and then sometimes I'm like just brain dumping essentially. Once I brain dump, I write this journal, and then once I leave that table, close that book, I will completely forget what I have wrote in it the next minute. And then I will never look back. I don't go back and read my journal. And on a similar note, I tried this gratitude journal, the thing that you saw me buy last year. It's great, but again, I stopped doing it because I found that I just kept writing the same things over and over again. I might not be doing it the right way, but honestly, yeah, it just doesn't work for me. So
it's not effective for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, journaling. Yeah, I don't know how journaling works too. Because it's a similar thing to blogging, because I tried blogging years ago, and blogging, the purpose of blogging was really, well, 1, self-reflection, but also holding yourself accountable in some way where you can look back and see if you've actually achieved something.
Yeah.
Or if you've set yourself a goal, did you at least get anywhere near it? And I was very similar to you, where I would fucking brain dump the fuck out of it, or I'll put whatever I did for that particular month or something, but I would never read over it.
But in saying that though, it's not really journaling, but I do have this Excel that I do every year. So I called it like goals or something like that. So I would just literally brain dump, write a list of some things that I do want to achieve. And the thing that I found though, I don't know if it's coincidence or it's subconscious, because we even did it ourselves for like our own joint goals, like career goals and salary goals, whatever. And subconsciously writing it out, we've actually managed to achieve these every year. And even same with some goals that I've written out at the start of the year. So even though I said I don't look back at it, the only time I will look back is like the next year when I have to duplicate this Excel and make it like 2025 or 2024. I'm like, oh, I actually achieved this, this, and this. So that's probably the extent of my journaling. But surprisingly and subconsciously, I think it actually does work in that manner. But at the same way, same time, when you look back, it kind of makes you feel good because sometimes you're just so in the moment, so in the days, and you're taking it like your days just as it comes. And you're like, man, I'm just struggling. I'm not going anywhere. Like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know where I'm going. But then you look back at this and you see the stuff that you achieve and you're like, wow, I actually did do something.
Yeah. Well, that Excel method is effective, but you only do it once, right? You write everything one time and then you review it the next year. And I think that's more effective because then at least you review it and you go, fuck, I've actually done so much that I maybe didn't plan for, or maybe I did plan for, and I tick those boxes. And I think it's more satisfying.
I think now that we're talking about this, I'm probably more a person where I like to keep it simple, where like, okay, I want to achieve this. But I think I've mentioned in the past, it doesn't matter what the method is, the journey in between how I get there, that's all whatever. So that allows me to have room to pivot. But if I'm like every single day I need to do this, I need to do that, and then incrementally doing like setting my milestones and stuff, it doesn't work for me because I like to see the bigger picture. I think I'm more visionary. So how I get there doesn't matter. Like as long as I do the work, put in that and get to that point, that's cool. I don't want to be like, okay, in 4 months I need to do this.
Yeah, you don't want to complicate
6 months I got to do this. Like I just want to know that I can get from A to B.
Yeah, that's why that's that, what's it called? KISS. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That's it.
Why you want to give me a kiss?
Hell no.
Another one for me that I find actually works. I've done it in the past, but it's such a, what's it called? It's like a love-hate relationship with is keeping social accountability. So I like to post stuff on socials, but it's just to share moments, share things, like not just because like, hey, look at me, I'm doing this. But at the same time, it does help me keep accountable. And that does great for me. So for example, like lifting, gymming, like sometimes I post it and I can see my progressions. But on the flip side of that, sometimes I get in my head too much. Like I know most of the time I really do not care what other people think or what people say, or like judgments and stuff. But there is this one slight side of me where sometimes I do think about that, and especially posting on socials and like things. I think it's the more I care about this certain thing, the more I think into it. So gymming or doing this design social media account, these things that I care about, I do let that overthinking get the best of me sometimes.
Yeah.
And then that's when I stop posting because I'm like, okay, people can't see my progression. People can't see. People like, oh, might think, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Or this doesn't look great. But in the end, I just keep reminding myself, whether it looks good, whether your form's bad or like your design shit, whatever, you're still putting in the work. You're still doing the work, and that's the only way you can grow. So I would like to try this method a bit more this year.
Yeah. No, when you talk about the social accountability, it's actually a pretty good diary to use to reflect as well. Like when we had the joint lifting socials, the IG, that was really good because that was us tracking our progression when we were I was more powerlifting, we were more strength. And it was good because we could see the progression that we made over X amount of years. And that's something that I really do miss is tracking that progression, seeing what we were then to now.
Yeah, that was really random because we actually deactivated this account and it somehow resurfaced itself. I don't know if we logged into an email by accident
I think I did,
or something. And I was like, hey, we still have this account. So we're looking at all the old videos of us gymming and just how much we can lift, and it's impressive.
Yeah, and even
I don't say so myself.
We had a few like Muay Thai stuff in that account too when we first started. This is like 2018. And
I think 2017.
Oh, well, okay. Anyway, back then, and seeing the differences of what,
oh my God, I am so embarrassing. I do not ever want these videos of
It's pretty, yeah. But it makes you humble because you realize, oh shit, this is where I started. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah. So then the thing for me that I put down for this was utilizing others to help you keep accountable. For an example, I utilize you quite a fair bit to help me keep accountable. And sometimes I feel like maybe I'm utilizing you too much. That could be a negative thing. But the pro part of it is having you there going, oi, mate, what are you doing? What, when it comes to maybe a gym or tasks that we've got at home and just reminders. And I like that, but I also feel like it could be a bad thing.
Like, honestly, I don't mind that I am that reminder. And I know that I have been that for quite a while. But sometimes the only, like, this is just being honest and throwing a lot of feelings out there, is just when I come and remind you and be like, hey, let's do this. Or, hey, you have this on. Or, hey, like, has this thing been done? Sometimes it's just that I have to come and remind you a few times before it gets done. So it's like, why am I being your reminder when you're not even going to do the task? And it's like, am I even like, is there a point me trying? Because I've got my own stuff to schedule and then having to remind you over and over again, but then you're not taking priority in these things that you need to be reminded of. So it's like, is it even a priority for you? So that is sometimes what I think about. But, you know, for the most part, I really don't mind being that.
Yeah, and I think that goes back to the engaging and discipline component that I was talking about before.
Yeah, but there's also, I think is a slight need for discipline in your point sometimes. Like, not everything, obviously, that auto regulation if you feel like on a day, but there is still that little bit of, again, that 2-minute task, just trying to be disciplined just to get started. And even if you work on it 5-10 minutes, I think that's better than not doing it at all.
Yeah, that's right. And that's something that I was going to mention as the additional thing. Applying that 2-minute rule just to at least start it and see how it goes, and then change it accordingly.
Yeah. One other thing for me is really watching or listening to podcasts or YouTube videos in the same field. So like people starting businesses, people designing like UX, UI and how their journey goes. Because a lot of the times when you're doing things on your own, you can easily get demotivated because, like I said earlier, you don't see your own progress until you look back like a year later or like 2 years later and you're like, wow, I've actually grown. But when you're in it day to day, you don't see anything. So when you listen to other people on the same journey or people who have grown or people are already there who have made it, it's really inspirational. It's really motivating. So sometimes when I listen to that, that just reignites that passion. I'm like, okay, yes, I'm going to do that as well. And just keeps me moving.
Yeah, it is powerful to listen and watch others who are in that similar field or are doing a goal that you're trying to go for, and it's good to see how they do it too, and it kind of boosts you.
Yeah. And like I always say this as a joke, like Physical 100, that Korean drama where it's like the physical game show. When I'm in a workout or like a gym lull, I just think of that. I'm like, man, these people are so inspiring in the way that they can move with all these heavy weights and whatever it is, like run with all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's my motivation to be like, okay, I would love to be able to be functional in that way.
Yeah, strength, but mobile and have the speed and power at the same time.
Yeah, just me thinking about all the stuff that we've talked about today, I just feel like it comes back and it shows the importance of why you need to do the things you love, because it's not just the task itself, like do you love it or not, but it's just having your own me time. Because if you don't have your own me time, you don't do the things that you love, and the task that you're doing, the intentions behind it, you're just doing for the sake of doing it, you don't actually love it, you don't have passion, it's really hard to get yourself to do the task.
Yeah, so it's important to do the things that you love, but also finding what motivates you, that makes you love what you're doing. Ultimately, it comes down to you, right? Everyone's different to what motivates them in terms of doing certain things or being engaged to do things. I think it's important to figure that out or realize what that is.
Yeah, because over the years, like this is stretching out to career, like career side, like less of my personal. I like no matter how much I'm earning, what like the salary is great. Like obviously being honest, everyone loves money. Like there's something like you just have
Cash
to have
money.
You have to have money to live, like to be able to function, you know, to pay off the house and all that. But honestly, if I don't love what I'm doing and I don't get that creative freedom, I just don't love being where I am. All that kind of just goes over my head. Like, yeah, I may be getting a good salary, but I'm just like, man, fuck it. I just don't want to be here. So to me, it shows how much I need to love what I'm doing. Otherwise, I can't just do it for the sake of money.
Yes. So from a professional perspective, you may get good cash monies, but if you got to deal with wankers at work, you got to deal with...
It's not just people, just the work.
Yeah, but that's like your environment that you work in, that's what gives you the motivation. That's what makes you love the job. If you like the job, but the surrounding is not there and it's stressing you out, maybe that's not for you. And then if it's vice versa, if you don't actually enjoy doing it, but you're doing it because it's the Benjamins, you've got to really think about it deeper.
Yeah. So the other thing I was going to say is like make it fun. Like it is a task in the end, but you can always make it fun. Like the reason why I love going grocery shopping with you, I like cleaning together because we actually just make it fun. Like we can just laugh at some random thing that would happen, or we'll just go like while we're vacuuming, we see a bird outside doing something funny, we'll just laugh at it. Like it's just the process. Just make it fun. Don't pressure yourself so much where you lose that fun aspect of it.
That is very important, making it fun, making it enjoyable, man. It always comes back to that engagement because then you're wanting to do it. You're motivated to do it.
Yeah. So next time we don't feel as accountable or we're lacking that bit of accountability, what are 3 benefits we can remind ourselves to hold ourselves accountable and do the task?
I think probably the most important and the biggest one is just really when you're holding yourself accountable, it's about that growth mindset.
Yeah, remember that the more, it's all one step at a time, and the more steps you take, the more you grow.
That's right. Those little stepping stones will help build that ultimate growth, but you've just got to slowly take your time, and things don't fucking grow. You can't grow trees just magically. Takes
Unless
time.
you're Jack and the Beanstalk, but
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the other thing sometimes that deters us all from doing the task or making ourselves accountable is maybe because we don't have confidence in what we're doing. So going back to what I was saying, when I'm opening a blank canvas and trying to come up with something creative, I've got nothing. Then I see what everyone else is doing. They're like, oh, they've just come up with this stuff off the bat, and didn't seem like it took them much effort. Like I'm sure there is a lot of effort that's put into it, but I just don't see myself in that same space or working in the same trajectory. And it comes back down to confidence. But can guarantee, and from own experiences, like the more you work on something, the more your confidence grows,
of course,
in yourself. Like even back to Muay Thai, like when I keep saying that I don't feel like I've grown, I feel like I'm still doing the same thing, and looking back into that account that we had, I definitely have grown. And now my confidence in going in Muay Thai as well is definitely looking back better than what I felt 4 to 5 years ago.
Yeah. This relates to the last part, which is obviously discipline. For me, it's just the discipline part, which is really important.
Yeah. Well, I think in accountability, a lot of it is closely related to discipline. So I agree with it. So I think not just with these tasks that you want to hold yourself accountable for, but just being able to practice the manner of discipline, it goes a long way. Because I remember back in the days, I was cutting a lot, eating really healthy. That came with a lot of discipline too. And a lot of my colleagues at the time were like, wow, you're so disciplined. Like, how can you hold yourself back when there's like cake in front of you? There's like cookies and all this kind of stuff. And I really was not tempted. Like, it's not that I was like, no, I can't eat it. Like, there was a different case where there was a time where I had this unhealthy diet thingy culture. But just aside from that, I had this discipline where like I don't really need it because I can eat it when I want to, like if I want to on the weekend. But right now I really don't feel like eating it. Just because it's there doesn't mean I need to eat it. And people were just like, wow, you have really good discipline. So I think it's just practicing discipline, whether it's in gym, in work, or like your own task. If you start to build that, you can start to build it everywhere else around you as well, not just in what you're trying to do in that time and place.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty important and solid component that you just mentioned there.
Yeah.
And it is relatable for a lot of people because it is diet, it is your physical aspect, gymming and things like that. So a lot of us can learn essentially from that.
Yeah. So next time you find yourself struggling to keep yourself accountable, remember that if you do keep yourself accountable, you will definitely have some growth that will come out of it. You'll grow your self-confidence and you'll build better discipline.
Yeah. So guys, let us know what you guys feel in terms of how you guys keep yourself accountable.
Yeah, if there's any ways that you guys keep yourself accountable, we would like to know, because we would like to try new methods, because obviously the ones we had in the past didn't work for us. These are just what we would like to try, but if you have better ideas, we're all ears. and we'd love to hear what tasks you want to work on as well.
Yeah, send them through to us. But likewise, we'll see you guys in the next one. And thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Peace.